Welcome back, everyone. A few weeks ago, Muslim apologist Jonathan Brown, also an esteemed professor at Georgetown University, got himself into a little bit of trouble over some comments made on his X account. I'm not an expert, but I assume Iran could still get a bomb easily. I hope Iran does some symbolic strike on a base, then everyone stops. He added, ironically, the main takeaways, in my non-expert opinion, and I'm happy to be corrected, from all this have nothing to do with the U.S. attack. Number one, Iran can take a licking. Number two, if Israel attacks Iranian cities, it gets effed up pretty bad. I mean, I've been shocked at the damage Iranian missiles caused. Soon after Brown said this, university higher-ups condemned the tweet, after waiting a while to see what would happen. At this point, it looks like one of Brown's positions at the university may be in jeopardy, but he will most certainly remain in place as at least a professor, where he will continue to serve as a living, breathing example of a major problem in Western academics, where critical work on Islam is stifled. At the same time, Muslim apologists/professors with a history of defending some of the most depraved aspects of Sharia law are somehow employed, even celebrated, by supposed institutions of higher learning. Now, speaking of higher learning, perhaps if we were all more educated, more inclusive, more nuanced, we would see things differently. We should apparently ignore all of the garbage Brown has said in the past, ignore the obvious implications of his recent statements, and realize that we, ourselves, may be the problem. That is what the WHSV would have us believe. You may know them as CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, but wretched hive of scum and villainy is much more appropriate. The WHSV says Brown was actually the victim of misinterpretation. I'm simply not enlightened enough to believe this. However, I am at least smart enough to piece together enough data points to recognize the standard tactic in Western rhetoric. The problem isn't actually the person who said the thing. No, the problem is you, especially if the person who said the thing is affiliated with a privileged group, a category Brown's religious views places him in for sure. So, from the perspective of someone who resents the kid gloves approach of Western academics toward people like Brown, I take his statements on their own merit, against the backdrop of his past comments, and against the broader conglomeration of the whole pathetic anti-Western Islamist movement that has become so popular among degenerate Western cowards recently. He starts off correctly. He's not an expert. He's an apologist. Second, his assumption is completely irrelevant, but predictably, it supports the conclusion he wants to be true. Otherwise, why make the completely baseless assumption? Third, a symbolic strike is not a necessary or sufficient condition for everyone stopping. So why hope for a symbolic strike, whatever that means? Regarding everyone stopping, the immediate context was strikes against Iran to prevent them from developing nuclear weapons. Most sane people, including Muslim countries in that region, don't want an Iran with nukes. In his second statement, he sounds like a cheerleader for Iran. And if Israel attacks Iranian cities, it gets effed up pretty bad. I mean, I've been shocked at the damage Iranian missiles caused. Brown then proceeded to criticize Iran for launching missiles indiscriminately into Israeli civilian areas, hitting houses and hospitals. Just kidding. That's unbecoming of a cheerleader. Here's his defense. First, he's a victim of misinterpretation. Okay, whatever. Next, and this is interesting, he has two immediate family members in the U.S. military who have served abroad and wouldn't want American soldiers harmed. Brown bringing up family relations is not a good move. He's married to a journalist for the CNN. Sorry, I'll get it right this time. Al Jazeera. He's married to an Al Jazeera journalist. A marriage like that would be insufferable if Brown did not, in some substantial way, share the views associated with that pro-jihad steaming manure pile of an organization. Brown's father-in-law was deported years ago for, among other things, supporting Palestinian Islamic Jihad. You may remember those terrorists from the infamous misfired rocket that hit a hospital in Gaza in October of 2023. Hamas blamed it on Israel. Israel proved demonstrably it wasn't them, and overwhelming evidence pointed to Palestinian Islamic Jihad. But Western media had already picked up that narrative right from the terrorist's mouth and wouldn't let it go. Neither could Brown's journalist wife. Months after conclusive evidence had plenty of time to change an honest person's mind. So Brown's appeal to his family members must, by definition, be selective. Otherwise, it's not very convincing. Let's compare. I have two immediate family members in the U.S. military who've served abroad and wouldn't want any harm to befall American soldiers. And for the other version, my wife is a journalist for Al Jazeera, and my father-in-law was deported for supporting Islamic terrorists, and I wouldn't want any harm to befall American soldiers. It just doesn't work too well, does it? By the way, the father-in-law who was deported for supporting Palestinian Islamic Jihad was also a professor at an American university. It's coincidence. Just coincidence, I'm sure. Now, Georgetown University has to walk the line in their response. The new White House is less generous with federal funding for universities who support anti-Americanism. Georgetown University won't want to be perceived that way for sure. On the other hand, American universities can make up for a lack of domestic funding by getting money from other places that share an ideology much more similar to that of Jonathan Brown. In summary, none of Brown's recent statements have been misinterpreted. His words, for many years, have been rightly understood. The Western Academy has a major problem when it comes to Islam. Brown is where he is in spite of the things he's been saying for many years because of this problem. And criticism of him and Islam more broadly, where it occurs among Western academics, must be done less publicly to avoid charges of Islamophobia. As an added bonus, I'm dropping one of my personal favorite Brown quotes below. Let me know what you think of it in the comments section. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.